Welcome to the new director training with a focus on early childhood transportation. This is Tasha Oglesby. I'm an early childhood consultant at the Kentucky Department of Education. Our objective today is to assist new directors with their leadership when providing transportation services and support to preschool, Head Start, and kindergarten. The first group we're going to look at is preschool, state-funded preschool. In state-funded preschool, we serve 4-year-old children who are at risk. That's defined as their families are 160% of the federal poverty level. We also have 3 and 4-year-old children with disabilities. The regulation that's important for preschool transportation is 702 KAR 5150. We're going to highlight today driver assistance training and certification, liability insurance for driver assistant, and safe supervision to and from that bus stop. One thing we need to remind you about is that whenever there's a state-funded preschool student on a bus, they must have a driver's assistant, or some districts call it bus monitors, and those assistants must be 16 or older and be with the preschool students on the bus. When you're training that driver's assistant, there's some regulations that go with it. So the training needs to be provided by a certified school bus training instructor. The training content must include entrance and exit from the bus, safety rules, first aid, emergency evacuation, student management such as seat positions and occupancy, how you ride the bus, and training related to transportation of students with disabilities, because that is one group that is we serve. Liability insurance. That driver's assistant must be named on the insurance. Also, if you have school boards owning, operating, or contracting school buses to transport those students, they must have liability for those school buses. So let's look at loading the bus. On the regs, it says, you need to help the students climb up the steps and assist the students to find their assigned seats. And unloading, you wait until the bus comes to a complete stop and have a communication system with your driver that they signal you that it's okay to stand up and assist that 3 or 4-year-old exit the bus. Make sure they have all their belongings, assist students walking down the steps, and deliver safely to that parent, guardian, or authorized person. If they have to cross the road, you must escort them. And preschool students cannot be left unattended at time of delivery. When students unload from the bus, procedures must be in place to ensure that they're released to the correct guardian or authorized person. We also recommend that you have a written policy and procedure outlining what happens when a child can't be delivered to an authorized person. There's nobody there. Also have a procedure on making sure everybody's on the bus that you picked up today. So if you have a lot of children at a bus stop, making sure all those children got on the bus safely. Also have a procedure in place where when your route is over, making sure that no child has been left on the bus. Some other things you might consider, the staff may need early childhood development and behavior management. How do you work with these littles? When using a standard bus and there's other students that aren't preschool students, that preschool assistant needs to be with those children, and those children need to be in a set place away from the other students. Preschool students also need to receive development appropriate training on bus safety. How do we ride a bus? How do we go up and down the steps? Okay, let's look at Head Start. Head Start They also provide services for low income families, but it may be through an agency and they may be in your building, or you may have a contract to provide them transportation. They've updated their standards and they put them all in one place, and that location is 45 CFR, Part 1303, Subpart F. Here's one thing you should know. If a Head Start child is left on a bus, not only must you follow your district procedures of what you need to do, but you have to call the regional office for Head Start. Okay, we're going to go through their regs. They're different than the preschools. They have emergency vehicle equipment, and this requires that you have a communication system, a seatbelt cutter, a fire extinguisher, first aid kit. They also have regs on auxiliary seating. They request that there be temporary or folding jump seats. Child restraint systems, they have to be appropriate for the height and the weight of the children you're serving. They also have a reg as far as the vehicle on maintenance. There needs to be an annual inspection, a systematic maintenance, and a daily pre-check inspection. Vehicle operation, safety, the regs connected to safety, there must be child restraint system. You have to have your baggage stored and secured. This is on the bus. There must be up-to-date rosters and the adults that are authorized to pick up to receive each child. There must be at least one monitor and more when necessary. They also have driver qualifications. You must be a CDL, meet physical, mental, and other requirements, and also district requirements. When you do an application review, you have to disclose the traffic violations. You need to check the national driver registration. You must meet the state driver requirements and you must have a current physical. The driver training, it has to include both classroom training but also behind the wheel training. Then when you're training those bus monitors, they must have training like preschool, exiting and entering the bus. They also must have training on maintaining accurate records, use of those child restraint systems, any specialized equipment on board, how to respond to emergency, pick up and release, post-trip vehicle checks, and CPR and first aid. Yes, the trip routing regulations, Head Start children can't be on the bus more than an hour. That bus can't be loaded to maximum capacity. When there's a Head Start child on the bus, they're not allowed to make backups or U-turns. They recommend that you make stops so you minimize traffic disruptions and the driver has a good field of view. You need to have stops so that you eliminate the need to cross a highway or a street, and an adult must escort the child off the bus if there is not a sidewalk or possible. Safety procedures, they have specific regulations on working with children and training them to ride a bus. And this is one thing that's different than preschool. Usually we practice our evacuations. We put one bus out in front of the preschool center and everybody practices on the same bus. Head Start requires that you practice on the bus the child will be riding. In addition to what your district requires, they also require 2 additional bus evacuation drills during the program year. The regulations with children with disabilities, you must ensure that buses or allowable alternate vehicles are designed for transportation of children with disabilities. And you must ensure that the special transportation requirements on a child IEP are followed. Also to consider, there are waivers available for Child safety restraints if you're working with a school district. They will not grant those waivers if you're working with a vehicle that's other than a bus, a school bus. If you're porting children that are birth to 3, like if they have an early head start that you're transporting, or if you're transportating in a bus where there are adult non-head start riders, other people are riding the bus with you. They don't typically grant those Head Start waivers. Kindergarten considerations. We highly recommend that you develop policies for kindergarten transportation. And also, as a reminder, use a release waiver form if a kindergarten student is not to be released to parents or guardians, a designated adult, or an older sibling. These are the few things we wanted to cover for our new transportation directors. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at Tasha Oglesby at education.ky.gov. Thank you.